Hi everyone, Courtney here with Bionic Blaze Clothing. I am a 2-time cancer survivor and amputee, and I am also a person with Hashimotos and hypothyroidism. Obviously I don't talk about that every time, but I did want to bring it up and kind of speak to it since it does affect a ton of women. It's actually very common in women, and I think it comes misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for a lot of people. So the way that I found out I had all of these things is while I was going through chemotherapy, essentially poisoning all of your cells, not just the bad ones. So it took quite a while for us to figure out what was going on, but I was super depressed. I was cold all the time. I was tired all the time. I didn't have hair, so the hair loss symptom wouldn't have been apparent. There was a lot of symptoms that obviously had to do with going through chemotherapy that were actually symptoms of hypothyroidism. So the way that hypothyroidism is diagnosed is by a blood test. You typically are given a series of blood tests. So there's the free T4, the free T3, and the TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So essentially what hypothyroidism is an underactive thyroid. It's not producing the hormones that it's supposed to. And the thyroid is actually located right here. It is a butterfly-shaped gland that is on your neck. So it can actually, if it's protruding because it's not working right for whatever reasons, if it's inflamed, it will actually, you'll feel it right here. So the way that they diagnosed me was that they said, oh, maybe let's do these tests just to see what's happening. And they did the tests, and my TSH was at 80. And it's a little backwards on the TSH, that the higher the number it is, the less active your thyroid is. So I was at 80, and the max you're supposed to be at is 4. So I was really bad, and it actually can be life-threatening if it goes undiagnosed and it goes that bad for too long, because you are depleted of this certain hormone. So for women, you should be somewhere between, I think it's like 0.5 and 4 on the TSH blood, but my endocrinologist says that she likes to have women not be any higher than 3. So that's something to kind of keep in mind if you do end up getting blood tests for whatever reason. Those are the average ranges for everything. If you are on the lower side of the TSH, so like 0.5 and lower, that means that your thyroid is overacting, which is kind of called hyperthyroidism. You feel anxious, your heart rate is high, you're always hot, you're losing weight. There's a ton of other things that go on with that I'm not super familiar with, but I know that the symptoms are the exact opposite of hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism symptoms are hair thinning, hair loss, always feeling cold, always feeling tired, brain fog, which a lot of those you kind of think, oh, okay, maybe, that might be a bad time of the month sometimes, right? As women, there are a lot of symptoms that are very similar to other like PMS sort of symptoms. It can affect your period. It can affect a ton of different things that you could just attribute to being worn down, right? So I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why it goes undiagnosed for so long for a lot of people. But the other factor of that is that there are doctors that don't take it seriously. It took me 8 years to find a good doctor that would actually take everything seriously and do the things that need to be done in order to monitor it, because there's no cure for it. Once you have it, you are stuck with it for the rest of your life. So it has to be something that you are monitored for, and if you ever intend on having children, it has to be extra monitored, because being pregnant causes hormone imbalances, and so then that affects your thyroid, and you have to change your medication. The medication is super simple. It's one pill. It is levothyroxine typically. Sometimes they do other things. For a little while I was on, so that's a T4 pill, and there's also a T3 pill that you can have in tandem with that T4 pill in order to make things work. It really depends on what your endocrinologist has to say about that. Essentially, all T3 turns into T4, and you're needing the T4. You just have to make sure that you take it first thing in the morning, and you have to wait at least 45 minutes to eat anything and to drink any milk. So just keep that in mind. Even for your coffee, you wouldn't want to add milk to your coffee if it hasn't been 45 minutes. So I will take my pill first thing in the morning, and then I will wait until I'm at work in order to eat. And with my coffee, I have oat milk, so it doesn't really affect it. So my doctor has me doing tests every 4 weeks. And that might feel excessive, but it actually is something that is really important to keep monitoring on it, because if your medication is too much or too little, your TSH will kind of tell you where you're at and if you need to adjust. And I think it's really important to do it maybe not every 4 weeks, but maybe you do it every 3 months or something like that. But I think it's really important to monitor it, because the amount of medication is based off of your weight. So if you're fluctuating in weight, you should be doing your tests more often. And obviously, if you're losing weight, your pill is most likely going to be a lower dose, because the less weight you have, the more work that the pill has to do, essentially. Especially when you're first starting out, if you get diagnosed, you are going to need to constantly monitor your blood results. And obviously you have to let the pill do its thing, so that's why you kind of need to wait 4 weeks to do it. Especially if there's any sort of change, you'll want to wait 4 to 6 weeks to do another test, because that will prove if it's working or not. And there's no like exact science for it. It's kind of just not fly by the seat of your pants, but the doctors are kind of just testing it out, because everyone's body also reacts super different. When I was going through a period of time where my pills were changing, my body reacted to it very severely. So it was hard, like you had to do like little increments at a time. It's not an exact science, not a lot of support from doctors. I even had a doctor, I stopped seeing him after that day, but I had my primary care doctor, and I had researched. I had already had hypothyroidism for 7-8 years at that point, and I had researched a doctor. I knew that I was feeling off. I researched a doctor that I wanted to be referred to, and so I gave him her name, and I just told him, like, I want to be referred to this doctor so that I could talk to her and kind of work on my thyroid medication. I don't feel like it's quite working right. I feel off. And he said to me, "Oh, why? Because you want to lose weight?" So I obviously didn't realize that was going to be his response. So I didn't react to it in a way that I probably would want to now, like reflecting back on it. But yeah, so there are doctors that won't take it seriously, for sure. And so you kind of have to advocate for yourself, and you have to just push for it. So the main thing that you want to do is talk to your primary if you suspect that you have hypothyroidism. One, keep in mind that the blood tests are not cheap. I think before my deductible hits, it's about $200 to $300 just to get the 3 tests that I was talking about. So you have to be prepared to fit that bill if you haven't hit your deductible. Obviously, I'm talking about American healthcare. And you have to, insist with your primary care doctor. So the only way that you're going to get referred to an endocrinologist is proving that you have some sort of thyroid issue. And the way that they do that, again, is by doing blood tests. So you would go to your regular doctor, you would say, "Hey, I suspect that I have thyroid issues." If you have family members that have thyroid issues, it is somewhat genetic. You want to pay attention to that and also use that as an argument to your doctor if they seem like they're resisting. And you can even just insist, like, "I'm okay with fitting the bill. I just want to get these tests done." If you don't have it and your tests are normal, awesome. Then you don't have to do anything else, and then you can figure out what is making you feel off. My dad had hypothyroidism. At the time when I got diagnosed, all the doctors were saying, "You're depressed, you're depressed, you're depressed." and I was only seeming depressed because my thyroid was so out of whack. Even oncologists who are supposed to be like on your side will attribute being depressed. One, of course I was sad. I was in a hospital getting chemo, but whatever. Not even thinking about all these other factors, and like they finally did that test and I was already at 80. It's definitely something that you have to fight for, and like I always say, advocate for yourself. And maybe your doctor is like, yeah, sure, let's do it, and no problem at all. Then great, you can figure out your endocrinologist. I recommend like doing your own research. Don't let the doctor pick one for you. They might just pick whoever is available, and then you might end up with a doctor that's not as great as you'd want them to be. That was kind of a piece of my journey on that, but I also wanted to talk about Hashimotos. The reason that I have hypothyroidism is because I have Hashimotos, autoimmune disorder, where it attacks your thyroid, which causes hypothyroidism. With the factor of already having some sort of autoimmune deficiency, that even more enforces that I will never be able to get rid of this issue. But there really is not any negative side effects from the pill. It's easy, it's teeny tiny. I think the main thing is just getting used to not eating first thing in the morning. If that's your thing, you'll just have to force yourself to get used to it. And the reason that you can't take it with food is because the pill will bind to the food or milk. You have to kind of let it digest, if you're ever curious of why that's the rule. There are a ton of pointers and things like that I'd love to get into. I've researched the crap out of hypothyroidism and how to eat well and what you should do, and one of the biggest things is bringing down your inflammation, because you're going to be inflamed if your thyroid is off. And if you can bring down your inflammation, that will bring down your symptoms. One of the biggest proponents that I always tout is taking pills of ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is just a spice. You have to be careful. You might see ashwagandha in powder form. Your body does not digest ashwagandha unless it has pepper in it, black pepper. So the pills have what you need to digest it. And also the powder form, it's kind of like turmeric. It's kind of like ginger. It's this very turmeric-like flavor, so it's gonna overpower everything that's in your food or shake. I used to put it in my protein shake, and I stopped doing that after a while because I couldn't do it anymore. They have, like, Costco has a huge thing of the pill form that, you know, you just take it daily with your regular vitamins. It does bring down your inflammation. It works great for me, and I actually take it at nighttime, and it is a calming agent. I know for a fact that it has like calming in it, so like similar to melatonin almost in a way. For me at least, I think some people it might act differently, but when I take it, I feel very, very relaxed and I feel like I'm ready to go to sleep. So I usually take it at nighttime, so I'm not taking it during the day and then like wanting to go to bed. Another one is turmeric pills. Again, you could do turmeric as a powder, but it's pretty strong. So turmeric and ashwagandha, they don't interfere with each other. You could take both. I don't think it hurts anything, but definitely paying attention to your inflammation, not doing too much salt, not doing too much alcohol, just anything that you think is going to inflame your body is going to make your thyroid issues worse. I feel like inflammation is a common problem with most human beings. There is a lot of interesting things that I've found throughout my time of researching and figuring everything out. It's a challenge, and even with losing weight and gaining weight, it's a huge struggle, and it's very, very challenging. I've had a lot of struggles with losing the weight that I've gained throughout the years of just being an adult, and it's hard to lose it, especially with thyroid problems, so that can be extra frustrating, and things that you think would be easy to do in order to lose that weight aren't necessarily going to work for you if you have thyroid issues. I've definitely felt that way the past 5 years, and it's definitely something that's not going away. So I'll also speak to some of the fitness things as well as the food items in a separate video, and I really want to be able to be available to people that are not as familiar with hypothyroidism as they would like to be, especially if they have it or if their family members have it. I was diagnosed when I was 18 and I think what happened was I was always going to have hypothyroidism because my dad has it, but I think it got accelerated because of my chemotherapy. And I think that's something to think about too with chemotherapy. I actually had to get all my vaccinations again, pretty much all of them again after I was done with chemotherapy, because it'll literally wipe out everything, including your vaccinations that you got as a baby. I'm happy that the pill doesn't have any negative side effects. It doesn't really affect my life negatively. There are times where I'm like, I feel off, and then I do a test and I'm like, yep, I need to adjust my medication. So it's definitely a challenge, and it's constant, so it's a little frustrating in that sense, but I think that it's really important for everyone to hear the information so that they can live a long, healthy life. Thank you all for listening, and I want to give you guys the content that you want to see. So please let me know in the comments below if there's anything you would like to hear about. I'm going to be doing a giveaway soon, so please keep an eye out for that. It's only for subscribers, so don't forget to like and subscribe.